And we'll bring the meeting to order. Welcome everybody to the Town of Belgrade Planning Board meeting for March 2, 2023. Our first order of business is to go over an applicant. So Jeff Allen is here virtually from Hudson for Jennifer, and Jenny is here virtually, so is James, to go over their application, which is in shoreline zoning. And their purpose is to demolish an existing structure and replace it with a new camp. There we go. All right. So, Jeff, is there anything you'd like to tell us at this time?
Well, I appreciate your time coming out Saturday to the site visit. I think that gave a good chance for everybody to look over the property and kind of understand what's going on. And I appreciate some of the information that Hans has been able to put together and provide. We have a couple of new things that I sent to him late yesterday or late. It was either the day before yesterday or yesterday that I'm not sure you guys have seen or not. One is some revised site plans that James put together that kind of answer some of the questions that were coming out at the planning board meeting. And we've got some additional information. We've also cut back the amount of impervious area we want to have on the site when we're done. So I think that's a significant change in itself. So I guess if let me see if I could share my screen here. We can look at those site plans. Oh, you've got to and allow me to share my screen if you would, please. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you see the site plan here now?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm looking at here, this is the existing site plan that's there now with the houses or the barn, the house, and the other second house that's there now. And what I'm showing in red right here are the trees that we're going to have to remove. That's and also this is that small yellow shed that we saw, but the pink trees are the ones that are going away, and I'll show you why. Because if I look at the this is the post-development plan, a couple of these are right exactly where we're building. This one over here is partially occluded by the building, and this one is very close, and I think that was the one that was looking pretty shabby when we were there. We are retaining this, I think it's a hemlock, 17-inch hemlock right here, and these other large trees out that are shown out in the yard here. It's another 17-inch hemlock, 15-inch beech, 13-inch hemlock, maple, and an oak out here that kind of divide us from the septic system area. And you'll note also on this diagram, before the little shed was in here, and now we've moved it out as basically as far away as we can on the property, way out near the entrance. And this red line that comes across here, I believe, is the 100-foot setback mark. So we're quite a ways beyond that for the new location of the shed. The other significant thing I wanted to show you, oh, George had a question earlier about what this circle is down in the walkway connecting the main cabin from the bunkhouse. That's a skylight. I figured it out by looking at the building plans, because that's evident in one of the building plans. That's just a raised skylight in that area.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good question. I didn't know myself. Now, what we're showing on here also is the reduced footprint of the driveway. This blue area that's seen right here is going to be the remainder of the driveway. It's where the existing driveway is that comes in, and we're sharing a driveway, of course, with our neighbor to the north, or the neighbor up here. And we're going to come in and just have a couple parking spaces here. The existing driveway, you can see, is the blue dashed line that comes all the way up to the barn, goes all the way over, actually to the old house that's over here, and that's this line, dashed line here and here. So it's a reduction. I think on that revised Exhibit H I sent to you, a reduction of almost 1561 square feet, almost 1,600 square feet of new vegetated area. And also on that revised Exhibit H that kind of calculated what the impact this is going to have on the site, I included a couple photos of what we're going to use for ground cover. Jenny, like the rest of us, doesn't like to mow, is what I'm hearing. And so rather than have a conventional lawn, that you'd mow, clippings blow into the lake or go somewhere else, she's going to have a lawn. Are you able to see these pictures now?
Yes.
Okay. It's a sod product that's made up of blueberry and a variety of other ferns and sods that are just going to give the ground a more natural appearance. So it's, this is another project. And what's kind of cool about this is I didn't realize that such a product existed. And then when I looked it up, it's from right here in Waterville. There's a company here in Waterville that sells this. So I'm assuming they're going to have native plants, so that eliminates the invasive species concerns. You get a really good ground cover, and by putting it in as sod, you're getting an immediate growth. You don't have to wait for the grass to grow to create a cohesion that prevents runoff and erosion. From what I'm hearing, these are, will grow and, kind of take root and become native there within a few weeks. So, I mean, if she can get on there and get this in quickly, that would, will cover up. And that's going to go, I'm going to go back to this other drawing I had. That's going to go in this area between the driveway and the house, and also in this area out in front of the house, between the house and the lake. This is that porch. The blue line you can see is the porch that was out there before, or that's there now. That's going to be all covered with this grass. We're keeping a couple large trees over on the corner here, the gray trees that we're going to retain. And so this area in front of the camp will all be covered with that sodded there's blueberry and ferns and straw smelling ferns or something, that it's going to be a nice change. You can see we had quite a conversation out here right at the foot of the stairs off the deck. That area is all going to be revegetated there. So I guess that's sort of the gist of the presentation that I have tonight. Kind of gives, this is an overall site view to see what the entire site's going to look like. And yeah, that was the 100-foot setback. So the shed is probably like 150 feet from the lake, essentially as far back as we can put it.
Jeff, when we were at that concrete pad talking, we had a conversation about an oak tree that was kind of in front of the skylight area. Remember, it was full of the brown-tailed moths, but it was otherwise a healthy tree.
Was that over in this area, Hans?
No, it was over by your pink skylight around. Here, can you see mine?
This is a 24-inch.
No, over towards it was on the waterfront.
Okay.
I don't see those trees.
I don't see them here either, but there isn't much place to put them because the deck was here, the porch was here, and the lake is here. So, were they over here?
Jeff, if I'm not mistaken, because Hans is I do recall this conversation.
There was a hemlock.
I think it was towards, so the north along the water shore, maybe about where the words along the, or maybe 157.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, this
somewhere
is-
right in there were several trees. The hardwood tree that you were talking about was right next to a softwood, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think it was right in that area along that shore.
This is the porch. So at this point, the porch is hanging out over the bank.
Yeah.
So
Right in there, I think.
in
right?
this area, perhaps?
I believe so. There is a
So-
tree indicated on that. Go north a little bit more. Please. There's some
Right?
there. What is that stuff?
That says a 10-inch pine and an 18-inch pine.
So we had the surveyor only mark trees that were over 8 inches in caliper on the plan as those being significant trees. So there aren't any, there's some birches and things right along the water in front of the house between the existing porch and existing boathouse. Our intent is to have them stay as long as we possibly can until construction or something makes them fall down. So our intent is to try and save all the trees in the waterfront to provide both a windbreak and retain a feeling of being there. So trying to retain a feeling of place and existence, that it's like that we're trying to tailor the house in between all those existing trees. So they're not in this plan because they were under 8-inch caliper and under what we assumed were trees of significance. But our intent is we don't plan to clear trying to make it clear that we don't plan to clear cut the lot and put a house down there. We're trying to weave the house among the existing trees and keep as much of the existing vegetation as we can for privacy, for comfort, for making the house look like it's always been there.
Very good. Thank you. Rich, do you
I
remember
was gonna
those?
say, I think the important point here is that the trees that are to be cut are marked. If
Correct.
the four reddish things, if they're not marked as red, then they don't go.
Correct.
That's
You know,
right.
And
we
they're
don't know
retained.
it. We can't remember exactly where those trees were,
Mhm.
wherever they were, if they're not the ones that are there, then they
Right.
don't.
They don't
get cut.
go.
Yeah, because clearing those trees on the water side, the existing trees, if they're not, don't have to go because of the building, they can't go.
Right.
They gotta be retained.
I got a question.
Sure.
So if the existing trees are not marked in the layout, how we will know 3 months, 4 months from now that they were there? How we document that the trees were there before the construction? We know which ones are gonna go, which are in red. But if there are trees along the shoreline that are not depicted in the plan, how are we gonna know that they were there? Later,
We could go out and take some pictures.
Sure, that would help.
Well, I was wondering if we already had some pictures.
The pictures that I have are more of the landward side.
Oh, yeah. There's a beauty of the slanting shed and
Yes,
the other architectural wonders out there.
marvels, as it were.
This is the trees you're talking about here, the first.
I think those are some of them. Yep. And then I think, so Sarah was just asking if these trees were some of the ones we're talking about,
Oh, exactly.
that they are. Then I think, let's see, this is in front of the barn.
Well, that's the existing deck and everything porch.
Yeah.
I mean, that documents it right there.
Okay.
So this is helpful.
Yeah, good question.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay.
What are you guys talking with the trees? Is it saplings?
No. No, those are small ones from that.
Dear exhibit, E.
These long and short.
Number 3, exhibit E.
Great. All right, so planning board members, what questions do we have for the applicant at this time?
I'll get one, Peter.
Go for it.
It has to do with, there was a discussion at the site visit about whether the shed that is being moved outside the setback area, whether that square footage was included in the expansion of the existing, of the new structure. Because if it was, that would be essentially moving the square footage of a non-conforming structure closer to the water, which couldn't be permitted. Do you know, Jeff, you said you're gonna check into that as to whether.
Yeah, I did talk with James about that. The old shed was located in here where my cursor is now. We can go back to the other picture, and we're moving it further away.
Right, but that doesn't enable that square footage to be added to the structure, with the main structure, which is closer to the water. And the question is that square footage plugged into the new structure?
I believe it is, right, James?
Doesn't
It is.
matter.
It is not included in the structure there. And if you look at the charts to the right over here, you can see there's there should be 2 charts. This is the existing shed of 101 square feet, and the shed continues as the shed in the second part. I don't know where the other, there's supposed to be 2
That's on
charts.
the other sheet here. Hang on a second.
If you go down, you'll see that I went from 101 to 65, which is the square footage, but we're under appreciably as that, and was not the intent to take the square footage of the shed and put it into the existing structure. If the offending 35 square feet is a problem, we can figure out how to pull that out. But it's not, you can see we have 1A shed in the existing at 101, and it was put at 65, which was a typographical error on my part, but the intent is that we're not trying to include that shed in the existing lot coverage for the buildings.
I would just point out too that the proposed structure is 78 square feet smaller than the existing structure.
Yeah, okay, that covers it.
So I had the same question when we were on site. Right? Well, actually, I heard you ask the question. That's why I had the same question.
Yeah, I think I misunderstood your question, Rich. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right, Rich, any other questions at this time that you can think of?
No.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Just for clarification. So was the shed 101 or 65 square feet?
The bottom of the shed, the footprint on the ground was 65. The top of the shed overhangs the ground quite a bit, so the square footage of the roof, the drip line is 101.
Okay. So that somehow that changed then on the proposed. Or we just
Yeah, I think our intent was to have another shed that's going to be 101 or 100 square feet roughly And James mentioned that was a typo in his part in this chart right here.
Because I'm going through Mr. Baker's reasoning. Then inside the 100-foot mark, there should be only 4258 square feet.
Well, it's already 78 square feet smaller anyways to start with. So that doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Thank you.
Urgent questions?
Do the, not for the applicant, a question regarding the ordinance. I don't see, and maybe there's no place to place them, but, we talked on site about where the trees that had to come down because of the construction were going to be replaced. And I don't see that on the drawing.
No, George, I'm not sure if you were not privy to the conversation that Rich and I had. We talked about having, there's already quite a good covering of trees out there. There's some others, as you mentioned, that are not shown on here. And so our intent is to put this shrubbery on the ground sort of as a replacement for some of the cover that was lost, because the ground cover, the lower shrubs have a much better opportunity to survive than if we were to put other trees in there. The trees, to put additional trees in there, they'd all be in the shade and would be less likely to survive.
That was a discussion that we had down there, or that was had down there about it.
Yes, I definitely remember the conversation of,
Yeah,
it was difficult to couldn't plant trees in front of it. And the tree and behind it wouldn't do a whole lot of good as far as screening or whatever. We discussed whether or not planting shrubs and blueberry bushes in front of the building could, and this is up to the board, could be exchanged for not planting just lawn there or something, which you could do. And so kind of, it's not specifically stated in the ordinance that you can do this as a trade, but there was discussion about that, and I thought that wouldn't be a bad idea, considering it's not really good places to plant the trees.
Well, I very much like what is being proposed for sort of a herbaceous and ground cover and the use of ferns and plants of that nature. That'll be more beneficial in terms of stormwater runoff than any grass area will be. And the hard part about when we're there in the winter time is, of course, the forest always looks more open than it really is during the growing season. And so I'm fine with the argument that even a shade tolerant species like balsam fir or something of that nature, not that you can buy hemlock seedlings anymore, but
Yeah.
in Maine, but or import them into Maine, but that something like that would just be stunted forever.
Yeah, and they really, one time they moved the structure back a bit and rebuilt it. Between the septic tank and the septic system and the driveway, there's not a whole lot of places where a normal size tree is gonna be.
In a few years could be considered a dangerous tree because it's hanging over the house, whatever. I like the woody vegetation. I like the ferns and the woody vegetation as in the blueberries and what you showed for a sample there, the ground cover, that's all good quality ground cover. Yeah, if they're gonna do that front and back, I'm good with that.
it makes sense. It's a good argument. It does. I just want to ask a procedural question. Where does our ordinance allow for that to occur?
It doesn't specifically.
Not
Says
specifically.
trees need to be planted.
That's why I was asking.
No
the
question to the water.
So in the absence of a specific thing that would point to that, I guess I just want to make sure that this goes forward as a condition.
Even if we have, even if trees are planted, they're still not gonna meet that standard unless we make them stick them in front of the camp.
Right.
Because the trees are right up against the camp zone, they're being built a little further back. Any tree you plant is gonna be further from the water than what it was to begin with. And like I said, the only option you've got is to plant along the edge of the shoreline, which
Yeah,
not really enough room there.
and but what they are proposing certainly will meet standards that have to do with stormwater, soil erosion control. And the canopy will, be sufficiently, it will remain sufficiently intact. So it's, I think one of those places where the intent of the ordinance is met, but maybe not the black and white language of the ordinance.
That's exactly how I look at it.
So in the absence of having the black and white, I would just like to suggest that if this goes forward as a condition of approval, that we just point to or enumerate some things that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah,
Well, one way you can do it is that this discussion we're having right now is being recorded in the as a condition, you could say something to the extent that the moving of trees over to the side of the property and that was discussed during the meeting minutes at length, so we're going to have the ground cover towards the lake in front, good in the 25 feet there, and especially the 10 feet as the subject of trees going out. You can just say it like that. We had a lengthy discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
and we do have this in writing as an amendment to the application in Appendix H as well. So it, in terms of needing a condition of approval to specify what will be planted, as long as we have that standard condition of approval of, you're getting approval for what you applied for. Part of their proposal is to plant this wild sod that includes blueberries and ferns and et cetera, moss, which sounds sounds really interesting and sounds like a great idea.
Yes.
Go
ahead.
George, that's actually the part about the plantings of grass and shrub, whatever Jeff showed us, that's in here now.
It's in what Hans received as a supplement in Exhibit H.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they are gonna be basically recovering a lot of what is now driveway space with this area. So they are bringing in, was it 1,500 square feet of more coverage.
They reduced
Being hard surface.
it from 40 to 30%, right? Is that what it meant?
Yes.
Do we want to require a survey, be taking up the trees on the shoreline?
I personally don't think we need to, since we have that photograph.
Got this
Well,
picture.
it's not showing the oaks. Yeah, we're on this, on the shoreline that we're, you can see the top of the hemlock and there's some oaks around it. That
Yeah.
were,
I'm fine.
It may not be a requirement, but that's certainly something that if this were passed, that would be something that just on your own, that would be fine. To take that initiative. I see no issue with that.
Rich's question raises sort of a point of housekeeping, though, that as we go forward, we need to make sure that Appendix H and Jeff's March 1st email along with the revised drawings are part of the, not only part of the project file, but that somehow it's clear that these drawings are replacement for the ones that were originally submitted. So there's no confusion in the future as to what we're being asked to approve.
Right.
And so, Hans, that's a matter of, maintaining the project file, I guess, but also I think when we get that far, I think we're gonna have to clarify the dates of the applicable drawings. Cause,
Actually,
yeah,
I'm not sure I changed the dates on those, so they may, the loose ones are the ones that you had in your hand, George, are the appropriate ones. If you want to just rip them out of the old application, replace them with the new ones, that would be.
Which means that we have the same date, yeah.
Yeah, I think they do have the same date.
well, the date of the, when the K&K's topographical survey, that remained the same, actually, because it's part of the bigger application, those other drawings, at least I couldn't find the dates on them. On the ones that you recently submitted, as of yesterday, I guess,
I don't think we have a new rev date on those.
well, they are if you use a magnifying glass or you got really good eyes. One is, the one that shows, the existing conditions is dated, 2/26/23. And, the proposed, it's got draft 2/12/16/22 on it, but it's also got on the right-hand column, 2/24/23. So somehow we need, I think we just need to reference the drawings of 2/24/23.
It says 228.
2/28. Okay, well, my eyesight isn't as good as they thought.
Both of them said 2/28. They also had the original date of December 2/22. So we will go by the last day I was. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then,
This is a little different than what I'm used to, where it shows all the successive
yeah,
revision
I
dates.
was looking at, yes, the revision dates of these ones are on the sideline, yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, the original ones are January ones, January 11, and these ones are the 28, yeah, great, it's good. That was my life at one point.
Yeah.
Revision dates on the drawings.
It's important.
So you're good, Jeff, on that.
It's better to be lucky than good.
Okay. All right, so what other questions do we have about this application or for the applicant or for Jeff? Anything else?
Great work, Jeff, this is outstanding.
So, lot
We
going
Got a
on,
good team here.
lot going on. And Hans, thank you for the information you provided over the course of this. It's very helpful to have done that. To me, it was very helpful that you did this homework and established the timeline and jotted those things down. So that was helpful. So thank you very much.
A question for the board. You may recall that the septic system inspection report found that there's a real problem with accumulation of sludge in the tank and recommended immediate pumping. Is that something that we can require as a condition of approval under the premise that not to do so shortens the life of the septic system and poses a water quality and risk?
This is Jenny. I've got an answer to that.
Sure.
I asked the septic inspector if I should have it pumped out immediately, and he advised not to leave the accumulation in there until we're ready to start it back up and use it. Because having it empty is worse than having the amount that's in there to remain.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, particularly in the winter.
Correct.
I was thinking more before occupation.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. For sure, it will be pumped out before occupation, no doubt about that.
Okay, well, we got that on the public record, so, okay, thank you, Jenny.
You good?
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the issue of whether we could do it as a condition. My reaction is George's rationale for making a condition, in my mind, would be legitimate rationale, whether or not if challenged in court or hold up, really doesn't make a difference. If we put it there, the worst that can happen is they throw the condition out.
Yeah, well, the applicant's
Yeah.
committed to doing that before occupancy, so
True.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions about construction, the proposed construction? At this time, or anything? Any other questions or comments about what's being proposed? If not, is the board ready to go through the findings of fact and conclusions of law?
Yeah,
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, this is the Belgrade Planning Board findings of fact and conclusions of law for Jennifer Pettinga. Applicant address 100 Pine Beach Road, map 42, lot 12. The applicant. Let's put today's date, 3/2/23, applied for a shoreline permit for the purpose of demolishing an existing structure and replaced with a new camp. Those are the project details that were submitted. The application was presented initially on February 16th. And I'm going to put a comment here, Hans, and put today's date too, because we're hearing it today. So we have several dates. These findings of fact and conclusions of law were developed in conjunction with consideration of the permit application. Based on the above, based upon the application materials, testimony, statements, evidence, documents, and other materials submitted to it, and the above findings of fact, and the Belgrade Planning Board finds that the project is permitted for the intended use, which is demolish existing structures.
Either, if I may suggest, that may be a good place where we're describing the application contents to note that based on the amended site drawings of
Original.
yeah, 223 and 228. 224 and 228, 23.
Okay, so I'll put, for language that I can use in here, I'll say, application submissions and amended site drawings dated, and then use those dates. So,
Better.
so 2/24/23 and 2/28.
8/23.
And matter of public record. So that's our common language for this. So let me back up a little bit. So based upon the application materials, testimony, statements, evidence and documents and other materials submitted to it and the above findings of fact, the Belgrade Planning Board finds that the project is permitted to demolish existing structures and replace with a new camp under section 14, table 1 in the ordinance, and further makes the following conclusions based on the applicable provisions in section 16D of the ordinance. So number one, we'll do a roll call vote. Number one, that it will maintain safe and healthful conditions. By a vote, the board found this standard was met. Based on the application submission and amended site drawings dated 2/24 and 2/28 this year, and a matter of public record.
Procedural question. Sir, are you
I cannot
recusing?
vote. No.
Oh, because you were not here last time. Okay, thank you. All right, so this is about safe and healthful conditions, and Sarah will recuse herself from voting on this. So, and, see now, so how do we do this? Because Rich, you voted last time, right?
Right, he can take Sarah's place.
Right, because that would be,
Yeah, he was.
so
he's
one
been-
recuse and we can still use the alternate.
Right,
So we'll do that. So long way to get there. We're trying to get to a right vote here. So in favor of safe and healthful condition.
Yeah.
So Rich, yes. Pete,
Yes.
yeah. George,
yes.
Craig,
Yes.
I too, so five in favor, none opposed. Number two, that it will not result erosion or sedimentation to surface waters. By a vote, the board found this standard was met based on the same things we said before. So this is water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters. So Rich.
Yeah.
Pete,
Yes.
George,
Yes,
Craig,
Yes.
me too. That's five in favor, none opposed. Three, will adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewater. So wastewater, so Rich.
Yes.
Pete, George,
yes.
Craig, me too. Five in favor, none opposed. Four, will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird or other wildlife habitat. By a vote, the board found this standard was met. So this is for spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird or other wildlife. So Rich,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
George,
Yes,
Craig,
Yes.
five in favor, me too, five in favor, none opposed. That five will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters. By a vote, the board found this standard was met. So Rich,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
George,
yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too, five in favor, none opposed. That six will protect archaeological and historic resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. By a vote, the board found this standard was met. So archaeological and historic resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. So
The answer is yes, but it almost could be an NA,
I know,
but yes.
yes. Pete,
Oh, and then.
but I have a reason to vote yes on it, and that is because that what's identified in the comprehensive plan does not include this site. So, so I think that it needs it. Yeah, you know, it's kind of what's not there,
Yes,
and Craig,
Yes.
me too. Number seven, that it will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use. By a vote, the board found that this standard was met. So floodplain, so Rich,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
George,
yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Me too. 5 in favor, none opposed. The next thing we have to go through is in conformance with the provisions in section 15, which are the land use standards. We'll go through all of these. Many of them do not apply. We'll indicate those as such, and then anything that does, we'll say yes, and then vote in favor or not in favor as a whole. So 8. So these are land use standards. So by a vote, the board found this standard was met based on the evidence in the record, and further as follows, that A, minimum lot standards. So NA, I'm thinking. Please tell me if I'm off base, anybody.
Yeah, I would, I
Does
think that's
it?
relevant.
Because it's a.
Given all our discussions about, is it one structure or not? Which it is, and yeah,
Yeah, it does apply.
and the fact that it's a bunkhouse versus a second primary structure. So I would argue that it's applicable.
Okay,
I would agree.
And I think, just for everybody's benefit, I'm gonna offer the usual, or anybody else can too, condition of approval for bunkhouses that not include any cooking facilities.
great.
So therefore, we only have one principal structure.
All right, so Jenny, did you hear that last part?
Yes, I did, and that's fine.
Okay, all right, and this is consistent with what we've done with other applications, especially as we're trying to improve our process always, so try to make that very
Yeah.
clear to the applicants.
No
Okay,
problem.
Thank you very much. So B, principal and accessory structures, I think that's a yes. C, campgrounds. NA. Thank you. D, individual campsites, also NA. E, commercial and industrial uses, that would be NA. F, parking areas, NA. Or. Yeah, I guess, next is roads and driveways,
Driveways
yes.
being amended.
That part. Signs. NA, stormwater runoff, yes. Septic waste disposal systems, yes. Essential services, NA. Thank you. Mineral exploration and extraction will be NA. Agriculture, NA. Timber harvesting and land management roads, NA. Clearing or removal of vegetation for activities other than timber harvesting.
Yeah.
So that was yes, because they've identified trees. P, hazard trees, storm damaged trees, and dead tree removal. Is part of that yes? Or is that no?
I assume that stump is about 8 or 10 feet tall is being.
The snag there.
Yeah, the one by that corner of that.
Yeah.
Property. So is that dead tree removal, or does that not apply to this case? Just.
Yeah, it's dead tree removal.
It is. Yeah. So can I say yes then? I
Sure.
mean, it doesn't, it's not a big point, but I
No,
just wanted to be clear. Q, exemptions to clearing and vegetation removal requirements. We're not exempting anything.
no.
So NA. Does that make sense? That would be NA in this case?
I think that would be in a.
Yeah, read that again.
Sure. So the standard is exemptions to clearing and vegetation removal requirements.
Yeah,
I think there'd be NA because there's no, that's the way I'm reading it. Revegetation requirements.
That's that.
I think that is, yeah, because we talked about that. Erosion and sedimentation control, yes. E, shoreline stabilization.
Yeah,
I would have said NA because it's none proposed.
It's an important feature, but there's no, I'm thinking there was no proposed activity that would.
You know, that little brush that they wanna plant around, we'll do that at the buffer, at the buffer.
Well, this is the shoreline itself. Right, that's the way I understand it. We're not touching the shoreline.
Right,
Yeah, we're not altering or anything with the shoreline, but above the shoreline, that's where the erosion.
correct.
Sedimentation control puts in.
Yes, you are correct about that part. So I'm gonna say, in this case, because nothing's being proposed to disturb the shoreline, I'm gonna say NA
Mhm.
specifically. U, soils. NA. I'm sorry, V, water quality. Historical and archaeological sites. I would say NA. Resource protection, this is a flat, fairly flat over there. So NA. Then we have, so Jenny, we have some conditions of approval that are needed meet required shoreline zoning ordinance findings of fact in section 16D. So these are standard. So I'll read them so you understand.
You want to vote on the others?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we can do that. So we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think 9, 10 items that are applicable under section 15 land use standards, right? So minimum lot standards, principal and accessory structures, road and driveways, stormwater runoff, septic waste disposal, clearing or removal of vegetation for activities other than timber harvesting, hazard trees, storm damaged trees and dead tree removal, revegetation requirements, erosion and sedimentation control, and water quality. So as a whole, for number 8, based on the application submission and amended site drawings dated 2/24 and 2/28, and as a matter of public record, in favor of number 8, those things that are applicable. So Rich,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
George,
Yes,
Craig,
Yes,
me too, so that's 5 in favor, none opposed. Next is to look at the conditions of approval. The standard ones are these 2. Number 1, to manage stormwater runoff from new or expanded structures in accordance with section 15I of the Belgrade Shoreland Zoning Ordinance in the Maine Department of Environmental Protection's best management practices, as outlined in the conservation practices for homeowners publication. Such measures are to be put in place prior to building use. This is a standing condition that applies to all permits unless deemed unnecessary by the planning board, based on the following rationale. So I'm just thinking this still applies. So no rationale needed, so this stays. 2, the planning board's approval of this project is limited to that described in the application and depicted in the accompanying site plan and other application submissions. Any changes to or deviations from the application, site plan, or application submissions as approved by the planning board must receive prior approval by the board, including but not limited to changes to the proposed location, footprint and height of structures, changes in the number of bedrooms, roads and driveways, parking, wells, subsurface wastewater disposal systems, the extent and location of vegetated areas, tree cutting and natural vegetation clearing, methods of soil erosion control, and stormwater runoff control. This too is a standard condition of approval for all shoreline zoning permits. I'm thinking this too there's no rationale to exclude it, so it would be standing. Are we in agreement on that? Are there any other conditions of approval we need to have for this?
The application doesn't show, I think I remember saying they haven't picked anybody yet, but when the project is done, we need a copy of the number of the certified excavator or whatever to do that before work begins.
Thank you. So we'll make that as a condition of approval
Mhm.
that, okay. So say, so prior to construction,
Mhm.
so. Prior to construction,
Prior to permit.
prior to permit,
Constructed.
Construction's normally how we do it, yeah.
prior to
Because
construction.
we're approving the permit right now. So it's before construction.
Prior to construction,
Mhm.
the DEP certified contractor number be
Provided to the code enforcement officer.
So I wrote it this way, so that prior to construction, that the DEP certified contractor number be provided to the CEO. Did that capture it?
Mm.
Okay. So we have three conditions of approval. We've gone through the findings of fact.
One more, there's room on the page.
We will make room.
So this has to do with the bunkhouse and.
Oh, yes.
Cooking facilities are prohibited in the bunkhouse.
Okay, so just leaving it that straight, just like that?
Rich may have an amendment.
The only, I was thinking that the three things make a residential dwelling unit. If they decided, well, if they could not have a bed, or plumbing facilities and have cooking facilities. So it's kind of takes three things to be, by saying it can't have cooking facilities. It put it this way, again, three things make up a dwelling unit. It's possible that they have the cooking facilities, but not the plumbing facilities. And it wouldn't be a dwelling unit.
Right.
But since they said they're not gonna have, or won't have cooking facilities, we probably could put it there. But otherwise, the condition cannot have one of these three things.
How's it stated in the ordinance, you know?
The words like you just said.
Yeah, what Rich has said is indeed exactly how it's stated in the definition section
For the
for.
applicant. And I'm not saying it has to be heard, but the applicant may want to change it at a later date. And take out we put cooking in and eliminate what's the other? The toilet, stuff
Well,
like that.
maybe my condition needs a little explanation. First off, that's what we've done in the past,
Yeah,
because cooking's always been the problematic aspect of turning an accessory structure into a principal structure where people, like in the Jones application, will put in kitchen facilities or cooking facilities, and turning it from a bunkhouse into a principal structure. Rich is absolutely correct that's only one of the criteria in the ordinance, but that's what we've always focused on in the past. So, if we want to approach this differently, I'm game, and we can just say the bunkhouse may not be converted from a accessory structure to a principal structure without prior planning board approval or something to that effect.
Or, I guess I probably should have just shut up from the fact that kitchen facilities, to get rid of that, they don't have a dwelling unit. If we did anything different, then my suggestion would be that something of, cannot have, three of the, can only have two of the three. We're probably at this point, since they're saying they won't have cooking facilities, we might as well just say no cooking
Can
facilities.
I offer up a little bit of insight?
Sure.
There's a new designation coming out in about 2 months. Detached bedroom. It's the same as a bunkhouse, allows plumbing, just a note, it's a defined. Detached bedroom, no cooking facilities is in the
Is one of the-
characteristics of this designation. So you're gonna start seeing the term bunkhouse disappear.
So that's a proposal from DEP and,
And it's coming through the
And then,
Human Health Services as part of the subsurface water, sewage, water, and then the plumbing inspector side.
so then, can somebody, just from my knowledge, somebody, remind me what is it going in, going, beds and, bathroom there?
Bathroom, sleeping quarters, and
Okay, sitting area.
No, but in this, site plan, what is going in there? Only beds?
I'm not sure it shows.
sink and a bath. Jeff, is that correct? Or Jenny, the proposal for the
Yeah.
bunk.
Yes, it's 2 bedrooms, a shared bathroom and a sitting area, but there will be no cooking facilities.
That
So
makes
then-
it even more clear that George's
Yeah.
thing is.
I will agree with that.
Right, because it's based on the application submissions, right?
They already have two of the items in.
Aren't they all connected?
Yes.
They are.
considered
So it's
connected.
considered one structure, so you can put 2 kitchens in that place.
I would think so, Mr. Al.
I mean, it's one structure, if you connect everything, it's no bunkhouse. Just.
Except it's described,
But it's one structure, which would be one main dwelling. You can call it whatever you want, it could be the west wing, but as long as it's all connected, you could have 6 kitchens. As long as you don't separate it from.
Probably right there.
Yeah, you got a point.
Yeah.
So like structure, it's a dwelling unit, is a dwelling unit.
yeah. No, that's certainly what we concluded with regard to not having to move it back. I mean, they're moving it back. To the grid, right?
Perhaps if they're walled so that they're two different. Even if it's one structure, if it had a wall instead of that walkway. In other words, it'd be like making an apartment building.
Hmm.
It's a 2 dwelling unit facility. You would have to have double the amount of shore frontage and whatever for each dwelling unit.
So
Okay.
my reading of the code has always been that a dwelling unit has 1 kitchen, period. If once you put in a second kitchen, it becomes a multiple dwelling unit. So you can't have a 1-bedroom house with, or one house with 6 kitchens. The kitchen is what actually defines the dwelling unit. So our intent is to not put in a dwelling unit if we just say, or 2 dwelling units. Doesn't matter if they're attached. Once you put a second kitchen in a building, it becomes multiple dwelling units. So it's
He's exactly right, because then it becomes a duplex. And it impacts the lot area.
So you can't put multiple kitchens in a house. As soon as you do that, it violates the code, and it's not the intent, and it's that's in the building code in general, before we get into getting down to the weeds. So it's not, you know,
There's no wall.
Yeah, James is correct, because it's, let's say it was a duplex, you know, there's no hallway even, you know, or breezeway, I guess they're being called, but, you know, it's all, you know, common wall structure. It would be twice the lot area.
Yeah.
It would be 2
Even if,
principal structures.
even if there's no wall between them, it's all part of the same building.
Okay,
I guess I wasn't aware of that.
so with this, with what they've submitted, and so that this other bunkhouse, if we call it that, is what's been referred to so far, with a kitchen and sleeping units, are we still thinking that that the condition about not having cooking facilities is applicable?
Well, I agree with
You know, I'm thinking of this, so usually when we talk about a bunkhouse separated from the primary building. That's not the case here. It is not separated. It is tidy. That's why we're allowing it to be the way it is. And when you first started talking about the whole thing, we're talking about, okay, Rich brought up the fact that, oh, it's a separate building over there. Or is it, or is it not? But now we determine it is all part of the one structure up there. So that's, so I think it's not a bunkhouse per se separated. It's all together. So it's,
Yeah, but the point, the relevant point is what lot area is required. If that becomes a second principal structure by virtue of having all three of the items in the definition of a residential dwelling unit, bath, bedroom, cooking facilities, then you need twice the lot area. They don't have it. It's a non-conforming structure. Not that it's really particularly relevant to this application, and I apologize for the academic discussion here, but it would be a duplex and essentially, and instead of you would need twice the lot area to be conforming. And
As long as, and I think where Peter's question pointing at, and even the applicant, I guess, is saying if there's two kitchens, it's a duplex or whatever, but Peter, I guess, was bringing out, I think what you're saying is exactly what I had said earlier when I was talking about there's no walls. It's, you know, all one facility. If there was a wall, you clearly have a duplex. But I'm willing to accept that it's a duplex whether there's walls or no walls. And it's two dwelling units when you have all three of them.
right.
Right, but they're not proposing to have all three.
No, they're not. And the only reason for this condition, and the only reason we've done it in every other case like this, is so that it makes it easier to enforce. Because it's been so problematic in the past where people get an application, call something a bunkhouse, and then put in kitchen facilities. They might have put in chicken facilities too, but because that's, as you've, told us numerous times, Rich, that's been a problem statewide.
Right.
And a common violation of the ordinance.
Sarah,
Yeah, I feel that an applicant have defined what they want. And since they already defined out of three, they already choose two, we can't say, well, then you cannot do number three. And that's what you're trying to do.
Right,
So
that's all I was trying to do.
I want to give them flexibility, but they already have made a choice. If they're gonna change that, they want the kitchen and the bedroom, they can come back and change it.
as long as the applicant understands what you just said.
Yeah, yeah.
And she did, George had asked her, what are you gonna do with this extra building off to the side, which is connected, she's saying, okay, and there's not gonna be any cooking going on, it's in the record, so we can go with that.
I'm sure she wants everybody in the same kitchen, or the same tool. I'm just making, that's a joke.
so
That's
based on.
correct.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Jenny. Craig, did you find something or did you?
No,
Yeah.
I just having a hard time finding a definition of a dwelling. I don't think it's
Right at the back of the thing, residential dwelling unit.
Yeah, no, it's right in the back of the
Page 86.
ordinance.
Or did-
I mean, Rich hit the nail on the head earlier.
Yeah.
I think
But-
we're fine, because that's, I think we should just move on.
okay, okay.
So based on that discussion, I think we're coming back to the original statement about having a fourth condition of approval, which is to state clearly that the,
Kitchen facilities are not allowed. In this one,
in the bunkhouse.
in both.
Is that fair to say it that way, George?
Yes, cooking facilities are prohibited in the bunkhouse.
I second it.
Yeah, we're just trying to help you out, make sure that you enjoy it.
Okay, so I've written it this way. I hope I captured it correctly. So that the fourth condition of approval is that cooking facilities are not permitted in the bunkhouse. Okay, all right. So we have 4 conditions of approval, 2 standing ones, and then 2 that we've added tonight. The 2 that we've added are prior to construction that the DEP certified contractor number be provided to the CEO, and that the cooking facilities are not permitted in the bunkhouse. Okay. This is where we vote. So based on the above findings of fact and conclusions of law on today's date is 3/2/2023. The Town of Belgrade Planning Board approved by a vote. And I'll do that in a minute. The shoreline permit application of Jenny.
Pettinga.
Okay, with the above conditions and at a meeting on today's date. Okay, this is where we vote. So, voting to approve based on the application submissions, including the amended, dated records that we talked about, and the public record. We good? So all those in favor, so Rich.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pete.
Yes.
George.
Yes.
Craig.
Yes.
Me too, so that's 5 in favor, none opposed. So that is 5-0. And that is approved. And Hans, do you have the original application that we would sign? Or
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your careful consideration.
Thank you, Jenny. And Hans, can I give this to you? This is. Can I give this to you? This is the, what we just did. And Hans, you have these amended things for you, for the record, correct? Okay. Thank you, Sarah.
Welcome.
Okay. Very good. Okey dokes. Next up is applicant Adam Gardner for Kendra and Jordan Klein. And, Jordan is with us.
Yes.
Looks like.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hi there, Jordan. Thanks
How
for
are
coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. All right. Adam, do you want to lead us through what you wanted to do? Or
Pretty much we have a existing, you know, wait for Craig to come back in or.
Yeah, he,
oh,
Okay.
temporarily.
Yeah.
If you want to wait a second, that's fine.
Yeah, we can.
They had a calendar around everyone
I did see that, I wanted to mention that. Cause I looked through it too and did not see it.
I missed it.
You mean for the last applicant?
Yeah, but this one,
Or this one?
the one that we did,
In the one we did, yes.
Okay.
That was in the- that was-
it was,
I believe so.
I missed that somehow. But this one, we don't have.
I haven't seen it yet. Okay.
All right, so you pretty much have the existing cottage out on Hoyt's Island, Hoyt's Island camps up on the north end. It sits like 50 feet from the lake. What we're looking to do is on the south side, so you're looking at it from the lake, the right-hand side at 360 square feet. The first 75 feet is 300 feet, which keeps us under the 1,000 square feet, and then behind 75 foot, we're at another 60. Mainly, we can't go behind it because it's all rock. It goes, it's pretty steep there. It goes up, there's like 5-foot boulders and then there's a little path behind there. They own like 15 feet all the way around it for the condo. And then the septic is up the hill, everything's pumped. There's, right now, it's a 3-bedroom. End of the day, it'll be a 3-bedroom as well, is making a larger master bedroom, doing storage and then expanding the kitchen. Fairly basic, roof height's not going any different than what's there now. If you look on that. The elevations, it's hit the roof and it's gonna carry the ridge all the way across. At the same height. It's on posts and backs, so there's seasonal plan.
So I have a procedural kind of question. Do we have a letter from the Kleins? Saying that you'll be.
Yes.
Grant permission to pull the permit?
Yeah, we have the email.
Okay,
Yes.
so I saw the email, I didn't know what pull the permits meant.
Oh,
But if we all are in agreement that that's what it's supposed to be.
hopefully it isn't this.
I just don't
Peter.
want to-
Peter, if you can, Jordan Klein here, how are you? Yeah, Adam has our permission for all this, yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's all I wanted to make sure to verify. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is on the side of the structure. I may have been confusing one application versus something else, but I had thought somewhere here it said on the water side of the structure, but it's clearly
No,
on
it's on the right-hand side, not going any closer to the water, so. If you look at that picture you have out on the right-hand side, looking at it, right flush with that.
And it is flush with the front of the structure, not with the front of the walk plan.
Structure. Yeah. This, right. Yeah, I don't know if it's the color is black.
And I had a question, we're at the condo, is it, you know, within the two bylaws, the rules of the condo. No one can do this type of thing, and
Yes.
do they have to get approval from the other?
They have approval from the condo board, actually Pat Donahue's on here now. As long as the planning board approves it, they will approve it, but they gave him the initial approval. We started this back in July, and that's when Richard was here before. He looked at it, looked over it, thought everything was good, but it had to go to the planning board to make sure they're able to do it. But they did meet, and there's a letter in the packet from the association itself.
Okay, I kind of saw that, I just wanted to get that.
Yep.
Out on the record here.
You have one other question, Peter?
Yeah,
On the application itself. And it says the total lot area is, well, not 43 anymore, but 3,808 square feet. And then it says square footage of unvegetated surface is 4,000 square feet. I'm wondering how you can have more than 4,000, you can have 4,000 square feet when the lot area is only 38.
That was
Square foot.
my building. I went to the tax card and saw that they were being taxed on an acre of land. And that's why initially you may have seen the 43,000.
They did.
And then I pulled that acre out because it is common land. I wasn't aware this is a condo situation. So I went from the tax card to assemble the square footage. The extra unvegetated space, that's just from the Google Earth. The structures, I guess there's a pad for a picnic table, 12 by 12, which,
There is, but that's association land.
yeah, and so again, that's.
We've had quite a few conversations about what's actually included in here, because they own this on the site plan, which is very limited, because they only own 15 feet all the way around it, everything else is association.
Yeah, so that area is.
So there's down by the lake, there's a dock and there's a small deck and pathway, but technically none of it's owned by the condo owner, it's owned by the owners. And they have like 15 acres there. So once you actually add in everything, is way more tree coverage, but it's related to just this camp itself. So the new permits, you fill them out electronically, and then as something cons is moving over to the handwritten one. So that's why there's a difference between that, I don't know if there's the actual printed copy. So you showed me that one, you printed out with all the numbers on it.
Yeah, it doesn't have all that. Even though you might put it in on the form, it doesn't translate,
Okay.
So
populate.
where exactly, I'm still a little confused, is the 4,000 square foot of unvegetated surface?
It would be the house plus the pad for a picnic table and a walkway.
Okay, that's-
some walkway 50 feet by 3 feet down the road.
That's even more than the square footage of the lot. Is shown.
Because their lot is just the footprint of the house plus 15 feet
Right.
in circumference.
It seems to me in the past, and this always comes up with, oh boy, shoot magnet there on Great Pond, with extended compound,
Oh,
um,
Oh,
hmm,
I'm figuring out what compound, I'm thinking the alpha.
yes, the Alphon compound. I mean, it's not a condo, but it's owned in common. We've, in the past, my recollection is that we've looked at the
whole area.
the whole property that's owned in common in trying to, in assessing whether or not the 20% rule's been met, rather than the amount of the little postage stamp that each individual
Yeah.
owns per se. Good night.
So, yeah, it makes sense to look at the whole picture. And the whole picture can't exceed more than 20%.
Right.
Versus each individual
Right.
lot.
I don't remember if this has come up with in other, but that's the one that I can recall.
yeah.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, Jordan here.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, how are you guys? Pat, additional units in this area have had additions on, so what would make that different?
Was that,
Who's asking, Pat
Yeah,
Donahue?
that's
He's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think, Pat, I gotta get a break.
I'm sorry, I couldn't make that.
He was just asking if it's been brought up before, so Pat's on the association, he is the president of it, I believe.
Uh-huh.
So he's just asking if this is been brought up before, the same question I had for Hans when we were filling this out, I think it's the same question, your email I saw the other day, was asking about the site plan. Well, technically, what the clients actually own is 15 feet around there.
Right.
They have 15 acres in common, and that was the question, like, do we need to go and map every single camp that's out there, every single pathway, every single deck, every single permanent dock to add an addition on?
Yeah, well, I can tell you what my opinion is. My opinion is no, that it's the site plan is just for the, tell us what trees are being cleared, what the immediate impact will be, the distances from the lake and the property lines and stuff. And even with the property lines, I'm not sure the property line setbacks apply here. That was something else I was going to bring up, but with the exception of the wastewater system, which is communal. And so I very much appreciate seeing the inspection report, which we didn't have in our original packet. But that's my opinion. My recollection is when we've had expansions of other units out there in the same condo association, that's how we handle it.
I know when we did one for Ironstein's, like 5 or 6 over, we went to the board first and the association approved it and we came here, but we didn't have to map out the entire area. The entire 15 acres, we just did where his camp was, because essentially, that 4,000 square feet is the number that Hans put in there, assuming everything is part of this 1 acre, which wasn't, so that number really shouldn't even be in there. There's really no way to do a 20% on what they own, because in that 15 feet, there's no trees we're gonna cut, and essentially covers the entire area. But I mean, as for like the 20% coverage, I think we're way under that, 'cause there's a lot of, vegetated area there, it's heavily wooded.
Right, and as Hans also implied the same, we can rely on something like Google Earth to show that the overall property owned by the association and its members in common, is nowhere close to the 20% unvegetated.
If it got down, say we had a facility that was approaching and getting close to 20%. At some point, I would think we'd have to move on from Google to more.
Yeah.
It's like the initial thing where they're clearly say over 20, under 20% by a significant amount. The idea of having them go measure everything when it's obvious, one thing, but if we had, and it may not ever come on this site here, but we had one that was, we'll say down, I think there's a condo association down on Great Pond, it may actually be in Rome. But that's one where they started expanding much, we'd have to look at that a little closer. And
Or the one just beyond the causeway on the left as you're going towards Rome, I believe.
that's the one I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah, that's actually still in Belgrade. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a different situation because everything's, cheek to jowl in there and I wouldn't be surprised if they're already over 20%.
Right, I mean, I don't think you can expand past that 15 feet.
Yeah,
Right around, so I don't think it ever hit the 20% out on this association. One thing, if they're trying to go out past that boundary they own, I can see that, but I agree, so.
And this is for the board, I guess. Mike, if you look at this drawing, which we just received today, obviously with this expansion, you're going to be very close to the land owned by the cottage owner, but whether that's 10 feet or not, I don't know, but I'm of the opinion that the property line setback is from the property line for the greater overall compound and land owned in common. rather than for each individual cottage. They may have rules for the association on that, but that's not our affair,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned.
That, I think I would agree with that.
I would agree with that too. Yeah, most definitely. Okay. So relative to the, I don't know if are we clear or is it a? Let me ask it a different way. Did you get an answer to the question about,
Well, I'm still a little confused there because, although I don't think it matters in the long run, but I just don't see where 4,000 square feet comes from. Because, let's see, here is it anyway? Oh, okay. Square footage of unvegetated surface within the shoreline zone, including all structures, driveways, parking areas, and walkways. And if it's the whole complex, it's clearly more than 4,000. If it's this lot, I don't understand how the lot area can be 3,800 square feet and the square footage of unvegetated surface is 4,000.
I told you, when I included, this is my error, I included hard surface that was on the condo property.
The whole
That-
condo or just?
Well, just a pathway to the lake, 50 feet by 3 feet wide. Okay, so I included that pathway as hard surface. My error, that's how it gets larger than the footprint of the house.
So, but it does beg the question of, you said it was 15 acres, the overall compound,
Yeah, roughly.
Something like that. The total lot area. I mean, you gotta, it's one way or the other is listed here as just over, an acre.
Right, but that's just for, the value. So.
From the
base-
text.
There's 15, I think it's 15 garages out there, so they took the land, they split it up between all 15 people, so everyone has an acre for value.
I see.
What they actually own is 15 feet around the structure itself. So.
So the 4,000 is in error is what you're
That's
saying.
my error, so it's not.
And
so we need
Yeah,
to.
we own a very small plot of that.
Right, so we
Yes.
need to correct that.
so it's less than that.
The
Right.
4,000 should be 3,800.
Yeah, it should be the footprint of the house.
Yeah, we need,
So let's strike that out.
we need,
Yeah, and it's pretty much
Yeah,
100%.
like I said,
960. 916
916 square feet,
right now.
15 feet around, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
15 feet around is vegetated. But it's limited trees. I mean, they're not cutting any trees, and maybe like 3 trees on the left-hand side.
This is the picture,
Yes.
so that makes sense. So to me, I'm thinking the answer to number 8 should be like 916.
Yeah, like, change it.
Yeah. So wait, you changed it? We need Adam to initial it and date it. Well, at the end, it's all fine, but just make sure that the record shows that we're all good. So you got like 916 plus something on there or
No, 916 is just what they own.
okay. And then you're proposing that addition. And so then the total square footage would go to 1276. Is that still the case?
Yes, correct.
point being, they're not close to 20%.
If you base it on their acre that they're allotted, they're nowhere close.
Yeah, right. It'd be well under. All right. All right, that's good. So this is not applicable. Anyway,
So I see your application signed, mine isn't, so I guess that's all set.
He, again, was submitted online. Adam came in and signed this one.
Perfect. Are we ready to move on to a different subject
I
matter
think
on
so.
this?
I think so.
I'm not trying to be facetious or anything, I'm just asking. Hans, on what was posted on the website. I assume this is your writing?
Yeah,
Can you explain what this is all about?
and no permit for that deck and stairs. It was changed from the original picture that's on the tax card, which is part of your packet as well. And, I just want CBO note right there.
There's a,
You know, made that, you put that clarification on the drawing, on the photo, and you put this in our packet.
Yep. Full
Okay.
disclosure, right,
All right.
information,
Yeah.
that's,
Do you know what the date is of this document?
I would guess sometime in the early 90s. See all the cottages out there, I think we're finished late 80s, 89,
Evaluated then?
89, so I guess. Somewhere in the 90s.
I was actually that was my first day on the board when this was approved.
So I guess a couple years after that would be my assumption.
So here's the dilemma, based on what you found, is that we are unable, under the ordinance, to approve an expansion to a structure that's in violation of the ordinance, a non-conforming structure. There's an easy solution, and that is to include, in the application, the stairs and landing, and hopefully it's less than 6 by 6, so it could be approved, but
the stairs don't have to be approved. The landing possibly, the stairs aren't included in the square footage.
Does it depend on the width of the stairs?
I've always been told that stairs are included in square footage.
I guess the issue is, in my mind, is the landing platform. Is it really considered stairs? Any, or at least looking at this, or I see here, it look like more than just a set of stairs going up to the doorway. It looks like a set of stairs plus a mini deck.
So if you go to page 12 of the ordinance, and this is the section that has to do with non-conforming structures, which this clearly is. Paragraph 4.
Stairs and ramps?
Yeah, stairs and ramps. Attached stairs or ramp not to exceed 6 feet in width shall be permitted to be added to a non-conforming structure closer to blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on to talk about the 6 by 6 landing. Obviously, we have to issue a permit for that to be there under the ordinance.
So the clients bought this property just past the summer, so it was one of the previous owners that put it on there. I would assume at some point, because there's an outswing door to have a landing, that's why there's a landing there, and they turn the stairs, otherwise you have to have a landing and then you go over the path towards the lake.
Right,
So they went down that side.
yeah.
At one-
No, from the picture, it's obvious why it was done the way it was done.
Yeah.
I'm
I
just,
just want to be clear that it wasn't.
yeah, I'm not
That
pointing
put it
fingers,
there, it
Mr.
was
Klein.
that just-
I
Oh,
know
yeah.
you just purchased this property. I'm just saying, under the ordinance, if you go to page 9, where expansions, and again, this is non-conforming structure, have to be a legally existing non-conforming structure. And this is not at this point in time, based on Hans's findings.
Okay, so would that be, do you think after the fact permit? for
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I think this. If it was me, I would just amend this to add that to it.
Just as egress.
Yeah, as stairs and a landing.
Landing to get out of the house.
As long, it's hopefully that landing's not more than 6 by 6, but
I don't know exactly, we can put in there if it isn't, and we'll shorten the stairs back. whatever it is. I mean.
but I think it's a matter of getting it on the record as being approved by this board. And so that we can then, also deal with the expansion onto the side at the same time.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think I have that same picture.
I don't have it either.
It's in your septic.
The,
Well, actually,
Yeah.
I got it from what was posted
Oh, I don't have that.
on the
Right.
website.
That's what I'm
it's
saying
on the
too, Craig.
website.
Nice, go with
Well,
that. Or the note, no permit for the deck and stairs. That's an important thing to see. I'm glad we're seeing it here.
Yeah,
That was on the website.
yeah, that's where I got it. I
Which is
downloaded
good.
it last Friday. Or over the weekend or something like that. It's Monday, maybe even.
Peter, could I have a call? This is Pat Donahue.
Hi, Pat, go ahead.
Yes, I was one of, with Steve and Bill Duboard, back in, we purchased it back in, 88. I recall that all the cottages had egress and egress stairs. I'm puzzled why it didn't get shown on the town plan, because it's always had a set of stairs. The first ones were, built, back in 1915, and they continued on as the way in, so I know it's always been there, maybe not this particular one, but it's always had a set, every one of them had a set of stairs and landings to get up, because it's fairly steep and rocky, so they wanted to be stable, so.
Yeah, it makes good sense, and I think the intent is all good. What we're just talking about is like on the tax card. And because there's a picture of that, right? There's and the stairs that are showing there, right, don't look like the ones that are there now. And that's what Hans was able to find and then
Yeah.
present a picture of that. And I think it's a good modification. It's not a criticism of
Yeah.
that at all.
No, it's an
It's-
improvement.
The question would be is if the homeowner, the previous homeowner came to the CEO and said, I want to put a set of stairs and landing on front of my camp. The CEO could have said, go for it. Just don't go any closer than 4 or 5 feet. I mean, it's happened more times than we probably count. So it's an egress thing. So, yeah, on my side, I wouldn't think twice about it. They get a set of stairs there, okay, because for egress, it's a safety thing, because if a lot of those camps, like Pat's saying, they have landings, well, they're going towards the lake, and then they took the stairs and they're towards the lake because they're out swing doors. So this homeowner, at one point, we don't know if he talked to Gary
Anybody.
at that time or someone, and said, yeah, go for it. And then maybe we have to verify the size of it.
Yep.
To make sure it meets the egress, but for all we know, he did ask. And the association said, yeah, go for it. It's just not on paper because it wasn't required to be on paper.
Yeah, and you're right, Gary did do things that way.
Right, many times, it's, yeah, stair, it's not a deck, go for it.
Yeah,
Just keep it-
except that we shouldn't be making the same mistake.
And we
Right.
can't.
Oh,
yeah.
right, we can definitely specify it has to be to the egress size, certain size, verified, if not, it needs to be made to that size, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
But that might be why. there's no
Yeah,
record
no,
of it.
Yeah,
It's fortunate, but.
it's a guess.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing, like, let's say our condition or our permit granting, if we will say that the stairway and landing no more than 6 feet. 6 by 6.
It's stated.
No wider than what's there now. Because I don't think it's anywhere 6, I think it's like 4 feet, it's just how long it is.
So Rich, you're thinking we can approve that by condition?
No. I'm thinking that it needs to be on an application, but I think, what I'm trying to say is we can't permit something that's more than 6 feet wide or 6 feet long.
Right.
That's all. it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's pretty clear in the ordinance.
Right, page 12. Talks about it pretty
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah, since I raised this, I thought, I should try to come up with a possible solution, and that was what I came up with.
So that possible solution, well, he had to step away. can that be like an amendment to, the current application, which does not have that yet?
No, but, yeah, I don't know why not. It would mean revising the site, the little site plan a little bit, but.
Is that something that we can do?
It's fine with me, if it works for everyone up there. Oh, we can draw it in on. You know, this one of 4x6 or whatever it is. I don't think it's 6 feet off the building. I think it's like 4 feet, though. Your length would be 6 and then adjust the stairs to wherever it's gotta be. And that still keeps it well under 1,000 square feet anyways.
Yeah, either that or this one.
For that one, okay. I think the last one is a little bit different, it says the canopy drawn in, but yeah, I can write on that one.
Whatever.
So
The one that-
4x6 landing, I mean, that's 24 feet.
Well, you can measure it and then, right? I mean, so that's a condition, so you just add whatever it is to it.
We can't be over 6 feet long.
Yeah.
So I think we have to measure it and adapt it to maybe 6 feet. I don't know, but I
Still
think
need
it's
a 3
specified.
foot door, and you look at the picture there.
No, 6 feet. Pretty close.
3 to 6, maybe.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to guess myself, but
We just want it to be what
What it should be.
it should be.
Yeah, I can draw it in on.
So those are 4-foot pieces of ladders. So you're talking 10 feet.
Yeah, it looks like it's bigger than clear, just a little bigger, yeah.
so, I mean, I do agree that what's there now is an improvement over what was there in the past. You know, where the stairs are going directly towards the lake. It isn't bad.
So if they're still under square footage, can we still include that the way it is?
Yeah,
It's only 60 feet. I mean, 40 feet. If it's 4 feet wide, it's 10 feet long. So we're only talking 40 square feet, and that's still under. What do you mean? Is it?
no, in the ordinance, it specifies that the landing can only be 36 square feet.
Right? So the dimensions of the landing shall not exceed 6 by 6, that
Yeah.
part,
Yeah,
so just that's, do you see what he's talking about, Craig? Yeah. Okay, so it sounds like we need to have a little bit of redraw on some stuff, right? And amending the application to reflect that. So that we'd have an accurate reflection of the new improved stairs and so on, that I think we're all in agreement that it's a good thing. No criticism about that at all. Just want to show what's on there. How does the board feel about proceeding at this time, or what's the feeling? Going forward and look for any other
I
gaps?
think so. I think we owe that to Adam and
Is he spending the
the
time?
owner.
Yeah. All right, so we talked about the stairs and landing and making sure that that's all squared away and put on the application to be amended, right? What other things do we have going on for this particular application? Any other questions? Anything about the roof? We talked about hip roof,
Maximum height's good.
height's good,
Same height, just gonna go
yeah.
further across.
I still have a question about that. So being 50 feet from the lake, even with that, the way it is, are you still under the square footage? Required?
If it was left as it is,
So I'm considering that 10 feet long by looking at the lattice work.
yeah, we're 950 right now without it included.
So you're 950,
So we have 50 square feet.
so you have 4 by 10, 40 square feet. So why can't they keep that the way it is?
I'm not suggesting otherwise. I'm just saying that they need to get approval for it.
Right, so far as I'm concerned, that's under 1,000 square feet. So we can still approve it just the way it is.
Yeah, we just need the application amended to reflect that.
So just have that square footage.
Yeah, that's
So
all.
there's no shortening. You don't have to shorten it or anything,
As long as it's.
as long as it's still under 1,000 square feet.
Well,
No,
Why is that?
because the ordinance says differently. Right? I mean, because the ordinance talks about on page 12 that the landing,
Yeah, so that's a landing, but he's still under the square footage allowed at 50 feet. So why can't we approve that?
Thing, in my mind, the thing, we have to look at this that was never there. And somebody wants to put a stairway. They can legally have a stairway 6 feet wide. But it talks about the landing being no more than 6 feet wide or 6 by 6.
correct?
If they've got 40 square feet and they're only permitted 36, because, in other words, if it's more than 36 square feet, they're essentially making a non-conforming structure.
yeah,
Because it isn't meeting the.
or
standard.
making a non-conforming structure more non-conforming.
No, it's still under the square footage, so they could put a deck on the front.
No,
No.
they can't,
Why?
because you're making a non-conforming structure more non-conforming. You're
Expanding
going towards the
water.
lake. Yeah. If not for this language that I referenced earlier, they wouldn't be allowed to do it regardless of what the total square footage was, because elsewhere in the ordinance, you can't make a non-conforming structure more non-conforming.
Yeah, this is essentially,
So I get what you're
So
saying.
that's moving towards the lake,
Correct.
even though the original stairs were further, but stairs don't count. And so. Because the original stairs went straight forward off,
Correct.
so they were a lot further towards the lake than this is.
Correct. They did go towards the lake. They were going straight, right? And I think the only part about that is whatever was constructed was not permitted, as the CEO pointed out.
Well,
So I'm still just tossing the idea away around because they're under the square footage. But the only thing holding it back is because it's towards the lake. Even though the original stairs were further.
my thought here is if the original stairs went toward the water. I think that's what you're saying.
It's right there. We got pictures of
We
it.
don't consider a set of stairs as a structure. Otherwise, they'd be able to expand the whole building right up to the front of the stairs. So we've exempted. Essentially says a stairway doesn't count toward setback. As long as it's no more than 6 feet wide. It's a way of allowing people to have access and egress from the structure without having it called. Included in the setback distance of the structure.
Well, that okay?
I do agree with like, we're under the 1,000, but we're also fine with going. No more than 6 feet long, fixing the previous homeowner's mistake. So however, it's gotta be, it's not a big deal to slide the stairs, keep that 6 feet. But I do understand if that was there under that 1,000 and we're.
Yeah.
It's an egress thing.
You've got me thinking about something else too now. So I would like a little more clarification. It says where stair design requires treads to change direction of orientation. The dimension of landing shall not exceed 6 by 6. These stairs aren't changing direction. Okay, so that upper part, the square footage we're arguing over, is that a landing or is that a deck?
Well, they're gonna make it into a landing.
If it's four, my feeling is if it's 10 feet long and 4 feet wide,
That's a deck.
it's a deck.
Mhm.
And we can't permit a deck, so we have to. Reduce the size of it so that we follow the land, so it meets what the intent of the landing is.
we're fine making it down to what it should be. That's not a problem. We can amend this permit for it. No problem. It still puts us under our 1,000 square feet.
So can we do that with a condition that they have to adjust the stairs and landing / deck to a 6x6, no larger than a 6x6 landing and no larger than 6 foot wide stairs?
My preference would be to have it reflected in the site plan, in the site drawing, so if in 5 years, there's absolutely no question as to, you know, that being, having been approved by the planning board. Unlike, you know, as Adam said, what if the former CEO with a wave of his hand approved this, but there's no record of it, you know, it does the landowner a disservice in many respects not to have it, a good record of this.
Are we able to draw it in on these ones, or do you want to do an amended permit and resubmit it?
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it could be drawn in on, speaking for myself, it could be drawn on this.
From my perspective, it could be drawn on this. I would,
With just the usual
yeah.
date,
sign and date.
initial, and it's a matter. I'd like to not have this repeated.
Correct. And we're also trying to be consistent with any other application that comes in too. It's just the practice of it.
Yeah, no, we've had others like this.
Yeah, we have.
Well, like this in the sense that, but not like this where there's a question whether this was ever approved in the past.
Right. Rich,
Like you say, it could be, I think, almost as simple as writing on here, what they're planning to do, plus a, stairway for access to the structure of a certain size, and then draw it on the, site plan.
I agree.
I can certainly live with that. And others? That way it's at least documented and is doing the homeowner or the landowner, the proper service.
Back to Craig's thing, I don't think it's appropriate to permit something by way of a condition. I think this is something that needs to be actually strictly permanent.
Yeah. So yeah, so that can be done. If you're willing to do that.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so are we okay to move on? So I think we've got some good understanding with this. What other questions about the construct do we have for the proposed construction? We talked about the roof height. And Craig, did that question get answered for you fully when we started talking about roof height? I think it was, and then.
I didn't have a question on roof height.
I know you didn't, but then, because then we started to go down this road. I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to ask. Okay, so you're good? Okay, do you have any other questions? Sarah, do you have any questions?
I don't.
Pete, any other questions? Rich, anything else going on?
assume this is gonna be on posts like the rest of the structure.
Yeah, the structure don't put down that.
I don't have it on.
Okay. And. Okay. Okay. All right, I don't have any more questions. So I would think that it would be appropriate, if you're gonna alter it tonight. Please do so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would go ahead and make modifications right now.
Yep.
You want that? No, I'm gonna do it.
You're set? So then, yeah, I'll follow your lead after that. Jordan and Patrick, thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate this. We're still going,
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
still going through some things, and Adam's modifying the permit application so that it's reflecting what we're talking about tonight.
Okay, so just so I understand, it sounds like we need to make some modifications to the front steps in the deck that the previous owner built, right?
It sounds like it.
Okay, all right. Okay,
Okay, so I have one more question, not to do with anything. to Do with. So that's 6x6 land or whatever.
can I ask a question? I'm sorry to. Is it Greg? Greg?
Yeah. Go ahead.
The 6x6 landing, I keep hearing 6x6. The landing that we walk up our stairs to that front door, it's not 6x6. Adam, what's the width of the stairs?
It's like 4 feet.
Yeah,
So
so it's
three would
maybe
go-
6x4, right?
We have to go 4 by 6. It can't be any wider than 6 feet, correct?
Right.
So we're gonna make it 4, we keep the same width off the building, but we're gonna go 6 feet for the landing and then move the stairs over to where the 6 foot mark is.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Thanks.
Okay, so going back to my question, and going back to the ordinance. So the stairs don't count, so that 6x6 landing that they're allowing that goes with the stairs, that square footage shouldn't count as well, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so that 36 feet doesn't count
Right,
towards the square footage.
yeah, because it's all considered access egress structure.
Right. Just wanted to clarify.
It's a good question. We don't hit this every day, so it's good.
It's confusing.
It is. Okay, all right, so Adam, thanks for modifying that. Hans, you good with what he's done? Okay, so Ford, are we ready to go for the findings of fact and conclusions of the law? All right, thank you. And Hans, thanks again for the shoreline facts sheet. I love this practice of having that information. Well done. Thank you. Okay, this is findings of fact and conclusions of law. Application for the shoreline permit for Kendra and Jordan Klein. The address is 13 Hoyts Island, map 14, lot HI-064M, as in Michael. The applicant on date, today's date, 3/2. Applied for shoreline permit for an addition to make one bedroom a storage area and build a new larger bedroom. I would also want to add on this, Hans, the application for
Stairway and landing.
stairway and landing. Yeah. it's a good- Yeah. So I'm just gonna write stairway and landing right on here.
So that would require Adam to modify this one more time.
Oh, that,
Oh, if it's not yet, then please.
yeah.
Thank you, Adam. That way we're in sync with what's being applied for. It's tied together well. So we like that. Moving on, the application was presented to the planning board on today's date. So the application was presented on today's date. These findings of fact and conclusions of law were developed in conjunction with the consideration of the permit application based on the application materials, testimony, statements, evidence, documents, and other materials submitted to it. And the above findings of fact, the Belgrade Planning Board finds that the project is permitted to do these things. So the addition, make one bedroom storage area and build a new larger bedroom and stairway and landings. That those things are there, so. Okay. Under section 14, table 1 in the ordinance, and further makes the following conclusions based on the applicable provisions in section 16B of the ordinance. So that we'll go through these, you've heard it before, so that we'll do a roll call vote. Will maintain safe and healthful conditions. By a vote, the board found this standard was met based on the application submissions in the public record. So in favor of safe and healthful. So Rich, oh, no, sorry,
Sarah's here.
right, that's right, I'm sorry, thank you. So Pete
Yes.
and Sarah,
Yes,
we, and George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too, so that's 5 in favor, none opposed. 2, will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters. So by a vote, the board found the standard was met. So Pete,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes,
George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too, 5 in favor, none opposed. Will adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewater. So by vote, the board found the standard was met. Pete,
Yes.
yeah, Sarah,
yes,
George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too. That it will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, or bird or other wildlife habitat. The board found this standard was met. So Pete,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes,
George,
Yes.
Craig, 5 and me too, 5 in favor, none opposed. That 5 will conserve shore cover and visual. As well as actual points of access to inland waters. By a vote, the board found the standard was met. So Pete,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes,
George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too, 5 in favor, none opposed. That 6 will protect archaeological and historic resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. By a vote, this board found that the standard was met. So Pete,
Yes.
Sarah,
yes,
George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too. That it will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use. So that by a vote, the board found this standard was met. Pete.
Yes.
Sarah,
yes,
George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
yeah, me too, 5 in favor, none opposed. Okay, next we go through the whole list of things for land use standards. So is in conformance with the provisions of section 15 land use standards. So the first one, we'll go through all these. The first one is minimum lot standards. This is a condo. Does minimum lot standards apply? Or would we say that this would be not applicable?
Let's say apply.
So just say
Yeah,
yes.
I agree.
So then B, principal and accessory structures
Yes.
is a yes.
Okay.
It's a principal. Yeah. C, campgrounds.
Well,
D, individual campsites.
no.
C, commercial and industrial uses. None proposed. F, parking areas. G, roads and driveways. I said NA. H, signs. Not applicable. I, stormwater runoff, that's a yes. J, septic waste disposal systems.
And
NA, thank you. K, essential services. NA, thanks. L, mineral exploration and extraction. NA. M, agriculture. NA. Timber harvesting and land management roads. Not applicable. Clearing or removal of vegetation for activities other than timber harvesting. NA, I'm thinking, is we all in agreement, NA? P, hazard trees, storm damaged trees and dead tree removal. Then I didn't see any that were proposed, so. Q, exemptions to clearing and vegetation removal requirements. NA, I'm thinking because there were nothing applied. Are revegetation requirements. S, erosion and sedimentation control, that would be yes.
Yes.
T, shoreline stabilization. None. Soils. NA. Q, water quality, yes. I said yes. Historical and archaeological sites. NA. Resource protection. It's not there, right? So. And so we have a few yeses, so they are. Minimum lot standards, principal and accessory structures, stormwater runoff. That's 3, erosion and sedimentation control and water quality. Those are the things that we're saying. The standards were met. For land use standards. We good? Therefore, so for those things. By a vote, the board found that this standard was met based on the evidence in the record and further as follows for those. So in favor, so Pete,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes,
George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too. 5 in favor, none opposed. Conditions of approval needed to be required. Belgrade Shoreline zoning ordinance findings in section 16D. 1, manage stormwater runoff from new or expanded structures in accordance with section 15I of the Belgrade Shoreline zoning ordinance and the Maine DEP's best management practices. I know you've seen this before. As outlined in the conservation practices for homeowners publication. Such measures are to be put in place prior to building use, standing condition. This would apply, right? No rationale to not. 2, planning board's approval of this project is limited to that described in the application. Now that it's been amended, this is why this is good. And depicted in the accompanying site plan, also amended, thank you very much. Site plan and other application submissions. Any changes to or deviations from the application, site plan, or other application submissions as approved by the planning board must receive prior approval by the board, including but not limited to changes to proposed location, footprint, height of structures, changes in the number of bedrooms, roads and driveways, parking, wells, subsurface wastewater disposal systems, the extent and location of vegetated areas, tree cutting and natural vegetation clearing, methods of soil erosion control, and stormwater runoff control. That's also the standard condition. No rationale to not have that in, so that stays. Are there any other conditions we need to have for this particular permit?
Pat, can you hear? Patrick?
Yeah.
Okay. That last condition that spoke to not addition of bedrooms, does that satisfy the association's request of this expansion?
yes. It remains 3 bedrooms with a storage area. In the
You want us to
rear.
read that condition again?
Our conditions are just the ones we had listed in our minutes to the HIC Board of Directors that maintain 3 bedrooms.
Your minutes didn't reflect any bedroom count that I saw.
Well, the application does,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and so we're approving only what's in the application.
That's right. And that's what the Board of Directors says, 3 bedrooms.
Okay. All right, Hans, thanks. It's good to get that clarified. Are you good?
Thank you. Howard.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Is there reason to have any other condition of approval
Do we need to say anything about the standard one of drip edge, the new roof line?
But we have the stormwater one, which should capture that.
Okay.
and He knows all about it. But yeah.
But it's a good point, and I too agree that the standing condition does capture that, which is good to have that. Okay, so we've got two standing conditions that are in there. No other need for anything else? And I don't see anyone. Nothing? Therefore, we're ready to vote. So all those in favor of approving these findings of fact and conclusions of law based on the application materials submitted in the public record. So in favor. So Pete
Yes.
and Sarah,
Yes,
George,
Yes,
Craig,
Yes.
me too, that's 5 in favor, none opposed. Great, the application will be mailed, so Adam, it should go to you, right? Because you're
Yes, that's fine.
representing Kendra and Jordan. So Jordan and Patrick, thanks for your time today, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank
good evening.
and best wishes on the project.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Good night.
Good night. Is the applicant's name Adam Gardner, Kendra and Jordan Klein? Dan. Okay, so that's that. Thank you. So Hans, I've got the findings of fact here and the signed. Have the application package. Done. Okay. Next up, we've gone through new business. Next up is old business. And we have the planning board charter review, George's packet. George,
Excuse me, we want to satisfy inquiries from the audience for both going to this. Shane, you know,
I didn't have anything.
okay.
thanks. Thanks very much. Next up is the planning board charter review. Patrick, thank you, George, for putting it into the framework of a model ordinance. And I know we had a question with near the page 3, I think it was, we had some.
Yeah, actually, there were, page 3 and on page 4. Things that I either failed to bring up or, the things I failed to bring up last time, on page 2, actually. You go by the page numbering on the bottom. I meant to suggest this, this discusses, when somebody fails to meet 4 consecutive regular meetings, that maybe we add a caveat without the approval of the planning board's chair. I could think of situations where somebody's either ill, has surgery, whatever, and it's legitimate, and they wish to come back to the board. It's just that they physically cannot. And you know, it seems to me they have an obligation to talk to the chairperson, you know, basically get the chair's approval, whether that's at a meeting. There's no voting or anything, but just as a professional courtesy, if nothing else. Yeah, but just the way it was written, it seemed a little rigid to me.
I think it's nice to have some flexibility. I guess Craig pointed out before, we're trying to get people involved and attending and participating. If it's too rigid, and that sort of keeps that away, it acts as an obstacle.
Right.
It's nice to have some flexibility in there, so I would agree with this. I don't know, do other board members?
I agree with it.
I'm fine with it. I'm good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's keep that what you wrote.
Okay. And then on the last page, I don't know why it says 3 or 4. It's me, not, I probably ran over onto the next page somehow and it never fixed, I never fixed it right. But this was part of the original language from the model ordinance from MMA. And I forgot to highlight that we needed to make a choice on whether we wanted to the vote should be a majority vote of the full board. So in other words, it would have to be 3 people, 3 out of 5, or majority vote of the members present.
I like the numbers present because it's more flexible.
Well, I also like that, and basically that's how we've operated historically.
Because if you only have 3 members there, then they all have.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, that seems kind of unworkable, and I guess you could argue unfair to applicants.
I'm good with members present.
I like the idea of members present. That offers some flexibility.
I always assumed it was that way.
Well, you're right, 'cause that's the way we have operated. Sarah, do you agree?
Mhm.
Okay, so let's keep the wording as is.
Yeah.
Were there any other items?
Those were the 2 I just wanted to highlight for everybody, and then, maybe others have things they would like to see changed or whatever.
I don't have anything to change, but I got a couple of questions.
Surely.
I'm assuming that front page 2C, that we won't have to go through that because we're already formed. In other words, we don't have to decide who's 1 year, who's 2 years, and who's 3 years.
Right, and hopefully the language that we decided to add to 1 above it, that says, the members currently serving may continue to do so until the end of the term for which they were appointed without need to be reappointed or take a new oath of office, covers that.
The other question I had, and I think I know the answer to this too, is under 3, second page, number 3C. And it says associate member may attend all meetings of the board. He or she may ask questions or offer comments only when members of the public are allowed to do so. Essentially, that's as long as it's a public meeting and we don't prevent people from the public, it's not a meeting where the public can't speak, that the associate has the ability to ask questions or speak. As long, even if nobody's here.
Right, yeah.
As long as they would have been allowed to speak, the associate member can participate in the discussion.
Yeah, that's how I read it. I think I saw, I don't know if it was the town of Reedfield or somewhere I saw it. Some towns have executive sessions on planning boards. I have no idea when that would be used or why it would be even appropriate. But anyway, I agree with your, regardless if anybody's here or not, this is a public meeting and, but
Right.
if you thought we should change that language, somehow.
No, I don't have any suggestions, just a question that kind of,
Yeah, well, I mean, like evidence today, you played an important part in the discussion, and questions, so I wouldn't want to lose that myself.
I'm just thinking we could take I think we could kind of eliminate that way. I mean, listen, what do we need it for in the first place? That. I'm in there. It was a public meeting.
Well, I'm under the belief that these were written long before Zoom became common.
Yeah.
And now we have public meetings that are being recorded for re-watching at later times. Any added discussion is to the benefit of whoever's gonna view it at a later date. So,
Good point.
and I mean, like you said, unless it is a closed meeting where input from the public is not allowed. I mean, if somebody's an associate member of the board, they're part of the board. They should speak freely.
And be allowed to speak as would any member of the public who would. And like, I think George was talking about, there's this thing called executive session. We don't have that. That would have been one of those times when, if we did have it, it would not be open, right? It would be different.
So explain the difference between a public hearing and a regular meeting.
Great question.
Well, hearings are
Let's, I'll take a whack at it. This is, don't take this to the legal bank. So it kind of depends on the ordinance. So for example, under the commercial development review ordinance, there's none. No difference. There is no public hearing per se under that ordinance. And the rationale for that at the time was KV Cog said, your meetings are already public, you know, what do you need a public hearing for? I think the only place that we have a place where a formal public hearing is well, I shouldn't say the only, but one place I can think of is under some circumstances is the subdivision ordinance for a major subdivision. And I can't remember exactly what the criteria that have to be met for that, but you know, in reality, I mean, typically, public hearings are a little bit more formal where, you know, the applicant, you have a set, you allow the applicant to present their application. Then you ask members of the audience that are present, you know, first off, everybody needs to sign in and identify themselves. And then you have something along the lines of those in favor of the application testifying, those that are opposed to the application testifying, and then those that are neither for or against the application testifying. As a, you know, in terms of day-to-day operations, there's really not a heck of a lot of difference. And I think the trend is to get at least the impression I got from KV Cog was to get away from public hearings.
I mean, didn't we just have one just a short time ago, public hearing, and no one showed up?
Which was
I
that
mean,
for?
we've had public hearings several times since I've been here. So we just had one just recently and no one showed up. I can't remember which
Or
one.
across the street, notice of the butters to come and have a hearing.
Yeah, we may have used the word public hearing, but there's no provision for a public hearing under the commercial development review ordinance. It really wasn't a public hearing legally. But there has to be an opportunity for the public to comment. And everything has to be on the public record. So in that respect, there's, you know, little to no difference between that and a public hearing. It's more the, you know, do you go through the formal process of who gets to testify when?
So it's up to the chair to keep control of everything. And limit things when, because, I mean, if we have a hot topic and the public's here, I mean, we can't go on forever.
Correct.
Yeah,
The public, you know, the ones I've been to so far, like, right side, they limited to do one question, one speaker. When the town lawyer was here, orchestrating it. But Dennis Ketchum. With one comment. And we had 30 to 60 seconds. I mean, so.
Yeah, you're right. So the chair certainly would have the freedom, and maybe we need to put something in here that says that, but to establish the protocol for, you know, when we're soliciting public in regardless of what's in the ordinance. So I mean, you know, I mean, it's certainly helpful, like the Caitlin, to have people, when we have a crowd, to sign in, you know, so that she gets everybody's name and spells it correctly. That, you know, I don't know that we need necessarily have that in ordinance, but we could put it in if you felt.
No, I'm just kind of making a statement of that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we need some control, because can't just let everybody sit out there. I mean, we have a meeting to run.
Right.
Gotta try.
Every meeting, it's gonna be a public hearing from now on, so every meeting, everybody can chime in.
Well, no, I think you're right. I mean,
There needs to be some sort of control. over
it's
that.
one thing when we just have a few people and it can be kind of a little on the informal side, but you know, at some point. It becomes mandatory, or just so you can get through what you need to get through. To, you know, say, you know, all questions come through the chair, or are directed to the chair, no discussions between people in the audience and all that kind of good stuff. And that just requires some self-discipline.
Robert's rules.
What's that?
Yeah.
Well, even with Robert rules, it still requires some self-discipline.
Okay, then I have one other question. And this is just the plan up for me. The term of each member shall be 3 years, except for the initial appointments, which shall be for 1 year, 2 years. What's that mean?
I think that's for if you were starting a board from scratch. And you're appointing all 5 members at the same time. One person would be appointed for 1 year, another person would be appointed for 2 years, and a third for 3, so that they're stagnated, so not everybody comes and goes at the same time. I know when I was on the and when it was first established, the comprehensive plan implementation committee, that's how our terms were, and I happen to have I think a 2-year term rather than a 3-year term.
And then once it's established. then
Yeah, that's that.
3 years.
Yeah,
And that does add up to 5 years.
So does that help? Honestly, that one. Okay. Any other suggestions or comments about this? So I'm thinking if we like this, I just want to talk this out a little bit. We probably want a motion on it to approve it as amended and stuff, and then speak with people about getting in the hopper to get, because we need to get this to the town voters, correct?
yeah, and you know, I think it would be a good courtesy to maybe sit down with the town manager and
Select person.
and then maybe the select, and then definitely the select persons, because obviously that's part of the process. To explain the rationale and what brought us, you know, why we're even proposing this.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the earliest this could make it to the voters would be next November.
Right. And so kind of like from a timeline perspective, we kind of thinking of, okay, so if we can agree that this is what we want to bring forward, then we'll go through the process of making sure I speak with the town manager, make appointments with the select persons, make sure there is time to explain what it is we've done, maybe the rationale behind it. And then, of course, by then it'll be midsummer, so in some ways it's not that
Yeah.
far away. And then the timeline to get this ready for for November, it's right on, hot on the heels of that, so. I know it seems like a long ways away, but when you spell it out, it's,
We always think it's a long ways away until it's not.
yeah.
I'm just thinking, we're going to eventually, talk, present this to the, select people. And the select person may, someone in the select board may say, well, is this protocol for the rest of the volunteer committees we have? And we may get that question asked, I'm sure someone will bring it up. So how do the other committees like, the recreation committee and the.
I think it, I can't, I certainly can't answer your question for all, but I can answer your question for a few. For example, the Board of Appeals, we approved as voters exactly a year ago, or at last town meeting, a similar kind of ordinance.
Right.
Content's a little different because there's obviously they have unique duties that are different than ours, but I don't remember exactly their circumstances, and I don't know if they didn't have an ordinance at all or what. I don't remember exactly the full justification, but clearly this would be consistent with that. And they're the other quasi-regulatory board in town. I know the comprehensive plan implementation committee doesn't have an ordinance. It has a charter from the select board, but it's advisory only. It doesn't have any decision-making authority. So that's clearly different than us or the appeals board. The other boards, I have no clue.
Right. I'd have to
I
guess
don't
that,
even know if they have charters or what.
right, I'd have to guess that the other one, if they even have a charter, that's fine because they are advisory, but I can't think of another one outside of the appeals board or our board that would be regulatory, really.
Right.
I might be missing something, but.
Probably advisor, type of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, consultative or advisory.
Yeah, we'd have to come prepared to answer that question,
Yeah.
One of the select people will ask,
Yeah.
bring it up.
Well, turn it around. You tell us,
Yeah.
You're the ones that.
Right?
Appoint these people.
So, yeah. So,
I'll make a motion.
all right, thank
Then
you.
we approve the establishment of the town of Belgrade's planning board ordinance as amended. As George has presented.
Thank you. Thank you. And seconded. Great, motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? Okay, roll call vote. So all those in favor. So Pete.
Yeah.
Sarah,
Yes,
George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too. 5 in favor, none opposed. Thank you very much.
So, I'll clean this, make those two changes that we amended tonight. And then, I'll email it to everybody, but I'll email it to you and then you're gonna go talk with the town manager.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'd be happy to speak with her and say, get some time with her. and talk.
If that's something you want me there for, I'd be happy to help with that.
Thank you, yeah. I probably will try to make a time when you could be there.
Okay.
the next meeting is, Tuesday, huh?
Who's?
Select board.
Oh, that could be, yeah. But there's no timeline that says that we have to speak with Lorna before next Tuesday,
Hmm,
right? Because it doesn't have to be quite that tight of a timeline. In my view, I think we have several weeks quite likely,
hmm.
but that's a good point.
But we should do it while you're still chair.
Yeah, true. All right. All right, next up, since we've gone through that, next up is previous minutes. And Caitlin, thank you very much again. And it just dawned on me, we did not do a roll call vote before. I apologize. It's probably too late to do it.
The roll.
Oh, roll call.
You did a roll
attendance.
call of the people online, but Andrew and Kimberly Dallas and Shane Chapu were not identified.
Okay,
And Adam.
and Adam Gardner.
But he's
And we have a full plan board plus Rich, so I'm sorry, Caitlin, I forgot, my fault. Dang it.
Bringing out that wet noodle.
I know. All right, so. Great. Okay. Have people finished reviewing the minutes? Are there any edits or suggested edits for the minutes? Keith, anyone?
Whatever.
I have just one, it says in-person members, me. It doesn't say me, it says Rich Baker, but, it wasn't in person, it was, Zoom or, I don't know what you want to call that, but it wasn't in person.
It's good point.
Remote.
Yeah,
Remote member.
Yeah, remote, yeah.
okay, so change in person to remote member. And that indicate that it's you, Rich Baker. All right. Okay, thanks. Anything else?
I don't have anything.
And Pete, you had nothing?
No.
Sarah, do you have anything? Oh wait, yeah,
I
'cause you
can-
weren't here. Yeah, that's right. George, do you have
No.
anything?
Fine.
Craig, anything? I didn't have anything. Great job.
I got
Caitlin.
one.
You got one?
Yeah, under Mark Purvis Builder,
Yes.
basically, just go to the second to the last page, just at the typo. The proposed residential structure will not be occupied until, it says until,
Oh,
and then, I got a question. The shoreline zoning ordinance and the old business discussion. So we need to modify that ordinance. Or,
the nature of our discussion at that time, I think, pointed out and that clarity is needed or an edit is needed. So that would be a modification, which then needs to go to the voters. So that's true. And when I was reading through this, I was thinking, did we, is it made clear in these that we need to do that?
and then that it goes, attaches to further on, we discussed another, the 25 foot, that's absent from the online version. Of setbacks. Another, same ordinance, another edit needs to be done. Right.
Minimum lot size.
So we need
That's
to
CEO.
compile a copy of these for, and then we'll review them. Also changing the formatting issues. Spaces and paragraphs when they don't belong.
With respect to the shoreline zoning, I mean, I think we'd like to, it might make sense to put this sort of. Put this on a list of things that need to be. Corrected or changed as we accumulate them and then. When we only changed the ordinance, updated it in 2018 which actually is quite a while ago. But, yeah, I know time flies when you're having fun. It seems like just yesterday to me, but, I don't really have a thought on the other ordinance, on the minimum lot size ordinance. Maybe that is something that, you know, should be done sooner rather than later. I don't know. I don't have a good feel for that.
And is that the planning board's thing to do? For that one, because that's a CEO.
Yeah, the
Right.
CEO administers it. I don't know how it's been done in the past.
CEO doesn't make the rules.
What's that?
CEO doesn't make the rules and enforces them.
So
I mean,
maybe,
it certainly could be a collaborative effort.
sure. I just want to make sure to ask.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that specifies one way or the other. You know,
So the
I
planning
would
board,
guess the select board's sort of expectation would be that we probably have involvement,
yeah, I think so too.
even though we, you know, technically you administer it, but, you know, we do rely on occasion on that ordinances.
Mhm. Yeah. It'd probably be fair to expect that the planning board would be asked to. If we've identified some things that need to be modified, then to be asked to contribute to it.
I mean, is that an issue that I know your tenure's been not real long, but, you know, comes up on an occasional basis, or was that a, you know,
The setback one?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So maybe we should start working on it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Or,
Can we just check if it's in our ordinance and it's just wrong on the website, where is it, can we change it? Edit it? On the website?
oh, that's the only problem, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
on that.
Oh, no, that doesn't need to go to the voters, does it?
Probably not, because
no.
That's just a sort of a high-end typo. I
right.
So why can't we just correct that on the website?
think you're right.
That'd be good. if we could just do that.
I forgot. I, for some reason, I had it in my head that was in the ordinance.
No, with last meeting, we brought out the old copies where it was on the
Yeah.
as to be a modification, and it was just, I think, formatting issue.
I would think you'd be able to fix that working with Mary,
Yeah.
myself.
That'd be good. So, okay, so that's kind of like how to do it going forward, relative to the minutes, make sure we have it. Are the, because you brought up some good things there, Hans, about this. Do we need to edit the minutes about any of this that you're talking about?
I just wanted to clarify the shoreline zone changes from the area feet to square feet or whatever.
Because at that time we said,
Like George clarified. This, you know, we need to polish this ball a little bit. Get it done. For it and other clarifications.
so in my view, I'd have nothing to add to change what was written in the minutes, what Caitlin captured, but knowing what you're talking about, and it may catch fire, there might be some more things to do, right, to clarify, edit, whatever, we may find some things, so. Good point, so we have a couple of small edits, but nothing else, is there anything more? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the amended minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 16th, 2023 as amended.
Thank you.
A second.
And second, thanks, Pete. All right, very quick, excellent. All right, any more discussion? So all those in favor, so Pete,
Yes.
Sarah, oh, that's right, you cannot. Oh, Rich, all right, thank you, good point, so thank you very much.
I came here just for that.
Yeah. Mission accomplished. George,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
me too, 5 in favor, none opposed. Thank you, thanks, everybody. All right, that's it for that stuff. CEO update, anything?
Just attended some meetings this week. They were about upcoming changes to some regulations. Filtered the hat that there's a new designation of detached bedrooms. which will allow bunkhouses basically to have a different name and have plumbing. So that's gonna be kind of big for the plumbing permit business, I think.
Ah,
So. Solar farms are making some inquiries. Or people interested in solar arrays are making. Inquiries.
commercial stuff.
Yeah, and this deer overwintering thing, I mean, just, we talked about it for that one site. Is there? And this is a personal question. Flexibility in that, I mean, and. Either it's, you know, yes or no, why does it apply just to the solar farming and not other businesses? I mean, you can go in there, level those trees and put in a subdivision, but you can't put level the trees and put in a solar farm. Which one has a bigger effect on wildlife?
There's a lot going on there, I think.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I was just gonna say, it does, the same standard is found in the subdivision ordinance.
Yes.
You're right, it isn't as specific or elsewhere in the commercial development review ordinance, albeit there's a similar requirement in the sense that people have to submit to us, beginning with habitat mapping, including deer wintering areas. And they have to take adequate measures to protect those. But in terms of a set in the ordinance setback, you're right, there is none between it and auto repair shop or you know, whatever, ice cream stand. I mean, in my mind, at least, the difference is that the other kinds of developments, at least the ones we've seen to date, are nowhere anywhere in the order of magnitude in terms of the acreages being impacted, particularly by clearing. And so that's how the deer wintering area came really to the fore in that. Plus, like I mentioned at our meeting with the folks from that folks from Portland, from that solar facility, and from Stantec Consulting, that comes directly from a recommendation from Inland Fish and Wildlife.
Recommendation.
Yeah, to the public utilities. Now, get to the flexibility part. What has happened, and this is in the context of a subdivision, I can think of the minor one out on 8 and 11 is the applicant, and you know, they all should do this anyway. Went to Inland Fish and Wildlife and got a letter saying, since we've done that mapping, we've decided that deer wintering area is not important. And so we were able to waive that requirement on that basis.
So IF&W said that.
Yeah,
Not the
the regional
applicant.
regional wildlife biologist.
Okay, I mean. And the reason I'm asking, you know, curious, and I'm that specifically is that junkyard. That would like to transform to something else is within that deer wintering area, and you're rolling out. I think some people that can come in and clean it up. And are willing to do it. But that caveat is probably gonna chase them away. Because the land clearing you got covered with the acreage, you know, what they're allowed to clear, and so that's covered.
But the distance to the deer wintering yard
Still too
for
close.
this, too close. Yeah, I don't know how much, I don't know if there's any flexibility that I can think of.
Like, then they go to inland fisheries and see if they can get a variance for inland fisheries.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, so there's that, because they said sometimes what happens is inland fish and wildlife in the course of their mapping, they change their view of the importance of a deer wintering yard.
On several in the area.
Or they find that the deer aren't using it anymore
Right.
for whatever reason. There's another circumstance, and I can't even remember when it was that we encountered this that allowed for us to waive. It wasn't a setback requirement because we didn't have anything like that, but the waive concern of part of the project being in a deer wintering area was because prior to that applicant ever coming to us, not by the applicant, by somebody else, the deer wintering area had been clear cut. Was no more, so it, after it was mapped, or, well, I mean, a lot of logging operations pay absolutely no attention to deer wintering areas in
And
central
that's-
Maine, but
There is an operation, I believe, real close to there, and, I drive by it 4 times a day.
so that's another,
Yeah, and I see so much happening there, and
Yeah.
I really wanna do something about these changes.
Well,
so those are the two circumstances I can think of.
because those deer wintering yards, no matter how you slice it, they're never gonna be static, right? Forever. It will not be that way.
Well, you know where to go find it.
Right, well, let's hope. There's always hope, softwoods come and go, deer travel. There's a lot going on there, and I think it might be perfectly acceptable for an evaluation of those deer wintering yards to be revisited every so often.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
I mean, that's why, well, the ordinance encourages people to go see inland fish and wildlife anyway, if they have, say, a deer wintering area, either on their project site or, within that setback, to come up with mitigation measures, and in the course of doing that, they'll have that, they'll learn, if inland fish and wildlife has changed its professional opinion about the value of that. They may have done a winter survey since the mapping was done, which is how you validate whether your wintering area is actually is one. There are a number of possibilities along those lines, so that's where I see the flexibility, flexibility being that the deer wintering area just doesn't have the value that as was, what we're trying to protect.
That help?
Yeah.
Great.
It's interesting to me, though, that there's interest, I honestly thought once we came out with that ordinance, any interest in Belgrade would evaporate.
No, there's a lot of residential areas too.
Yeah, well, that doesn't apply anyway, but
Oh, I've come across now, they actually have solar fence panels. You put up vertical. So you get a fence along the yard and it produces some
interesting.
energy for it.
Yeah, and that type of thing, with technological advancements will continue to happen.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
there'll be inventive and creative solutions for residents.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I wasn't aware of that, but, in the course of when we were working on that, I became aware of how roofing systems
Oh, well, that's what's big in there.
or awnings even,
Right.
or windows.
Yeah. A lot of things could take advantage.
And they're flexible, yeah, all those are.
So.
Window?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Huh.
can serve both purposes. Don't ask me how it works. Because I don't know.
And then there's the one where there's a tower you put in your yard, the tower turns around.
Oh, the vertical,
The advertisement and.
yeah,
The internet.
yeah,
I'd like to put one of those in my yard.
Well, Steve's Appliance has one.
Yeah,
yeah, they
right.
do.
That's right.
What's that again?
Steve's Appliance has one of there.
It's called a vertical axis
Window.
windmill.
Up on the, right on the, up at.
Oh, Steve's Appliance.
Yeah.
I didn't hear what
Up
you
the
said.
hill there.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Oh, good.
I think that's where the focus should have been anyways, rather than these big solar farms and these big fields, we have to. Well, first of all, it's taking away the countryside, and second of all, we have to upgrade our power lines. Stick all this extra money in upgrading all these power lines, and you still can't handle all the solar farms that are being built and are out there. they should have focused on the residents anyways and promoted it and taken that money that they're throwing at these big companies from out of state, and everybody's from out of state. And they're getting all this green power, and they're upgrading all your lines, so now they have this green power and they just doubled it.
Oh, double the rate, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. And who gets that money?
Yeah, oh, put these heat pumps in, put these heat pumps in. Well, now people are getting stuck with $1,000 a month electric bill. For these, all this green energy, they're sticking it around. They should have gone at the residents, because like you say, they're coming out with this new stuff. They have all this roof panel technology. You know, they could have set batteries up. But the big company, CMP, would have squawked, because CMP is not making money off it.
Follow the money, right? Follow
It's
the-
all money trails, nothing about being green.
That's why CMP went right to the mat with their lobbyists at the legislature opposed net metering.
Yeah,
Are we done?
I think we are done. Yeah, so.
We made it
rather
for a
than
while.
Talk to committee opinions about policy or politics. So let's wrap it up, shall we? So, who would
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn? And
I second it.
Seconded, in favor, Pete,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Craig, me